The 5 stitches we'll be going over today include the running stitch, the blanket stitch, the back stitch, the chain stitch, and the stem stitch. If you'd like to stitch along with me, head over to my Stan.Store where you can get this exact template emailed to you for free. The link's in the description. After downloading the guide, print the template onto sticky water-soluble paper stabilizer. Cut it out and then stick it onto your fabric. I'll go over this process in a little bit more detail in another video. Since we're embroidering a rainbow, I suggest picking out a rainbow assortment of floss. This includes red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and pink. I've got suggested colors and DMC color codes included in my guide. Let's start with the running stitch. To practice the running stitch, pierce the fabric from the back and pull the thread through. On the first stitch, leave about an inch tail of thread on the back side to secure stitches. On the front, pierce the fabric with the needle and pull the thread through. Make sure not to pull too tight, as this will create fabric puckering. Next, pierce the fabric from the back, creating a stitch on the back side. I like the stitch on the back side to be about half the length as the stitches on the top, but you can make them however short or long you like. Repeat this process until your desired length. The running stitch is the most basic and arguably the most important embroidery stitch because it will become the foundation of your embroidery practice. While you may rarely use the running stitch in more intricate embroidery practices, mastering this stitch will allow you to easily grasp the ideas and concepts around other stitches and increase your potential for more accurate and precise embroidery. Now let's move on to the basic blanket stitch. The blanket stitch is actually stitched on 2 parallel lines at once. First, pierce the back and bring the needle and thread through on the lower line. Then insert the needle on the top line a stitch length distance away. Pull the thread through, leaving a small loop on the top. Next, bring the needle and thread through the fabric from the back on the lower line, making sure the loop is under the needle. Then pull the thread taut. Repeat these steps until you reach your desired length. The next stitch we're going to learn is the back stitch. When starting the back stitch, I always like to do one running stitch first. Then, on the second stitch, bring the needle and thread up through the back of the fabric as you would a normal running stitch. Next, insert the needle back into the same hole as a previous stitch. Continue moving in a forward stitch motion on the back side of the fabric while moving backwards on the top. Mastering this can be a little tricky at first, but just keep practicing until you get it. Now we're going to practice the chain stitch. For the chain stitch, bring the needle and thread up from the back and then pierce the fabric on the front at the same hole. Pull the thread through, but leave a small loop on the top. Next, pierce the fabric about a stitch length distance away and pull the needle and thread through the loop. Pull the loop snug, but not too tight. Repeat this process to form a chain. The chain stitch is often used to outline objects, fill in objects with interesting texture, and is often used in lettering. The fifth and final stitch we're going to practice today is the stem stitch. For the stem stitch, bring the needle and thread through the back of the fabric and then pierce the fabric about 2 stitch lengths forward. Pull the thread through, but leave it loose so you can pierce the back side just before the previous stitch. Then pull the thread taut. Repeat these steps for your desired length. The stem stitch is also known as an outline stitch, but because it's commonly used to create stems and floral projects, we'll stick with the stem nomenclature. The stem stitch is similar to the back stitch. However, here you move forward on the top of the fabric while stitching backwards on the bottom side. Thanks so much for following along with me today. If you enjoyed this tutorial, I'd love to hear from you in the comments, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode. Part 2 of the Happy Rainbow Sampler stitch tutorial will be coming out soon. Thanks again, and remember, done is better than perfect.